This video is sponsored by Squarespace. Fear, fish or cheese? What is it to be a monger? What's so gross about a grocer? And what's the tale behind tailors? In this video, I'll explore the wonderful origins of these job words and more. I'll have a bash at haberdasher, unweave the etymology of weavers, and mull where milliners get their names from. That one is definitely going to surprise you. So let's get straight to work. It's another RobWords. Where does the word monger come from then? Well, monger comes from the classical Latin mango, meaning a trader, not to be confused with the fruity type of mango, which gets its name from the southwest Indian language of Malayalam. The less delicious Latin word mango actually does have a place in English in its own right as a rarely used and rather negative term for a trader, specifically a slave trader. But that's comparatively recent. It emerged with the slave trade in the 17th century. But by then, mango had already been in English for a long, long time, however in a mutated form. It had taken the Germanic ER or ERE ending and become the word monger in many different spelling forms, some of them with man, some of them with mon. Anyway, it existed in Old English, it's that old, which was being spoken, 1,000 years ago. The Old English word for butcher, before the French gave us the word butcher, was flaskmangerer or fleshmonger. I'll give you a link to my video that explains the cool origin of butcher itself at the end of this one. The fleshmongers may have disappeared, but plenty of other mongers remain in English. You can have a fishmonger, a seller of seafood. You can ply your trade as a cheesemonger, which to me almost sounds like a term for a bad wedding DJ. There's also, of course, ironmongers, who were originally traders of ferrous goods, but also sometimes just general hardware retailers these days. And then you also have my favourite monger, because who doesn't have a favourite monger? We have the costermonger. The term doesn't get a lot of use anymore, but when it is used, it means someone who sells fruit and veg. However, this is one of those stories of a word getting more vague with age. Originally, a costermonger was a seller of just one thing: apples. And actually, even more specifically than that, a particular type of apple called a costard. It's a big old cooking apple. Costermongers were originally costardmongers, apple traders. Now, all those very literal mongers have been followed in recent centuries by the invention of figurative mongers. We now have warmongers and fearmongers and scaremongers too. But all of these modern mongers have negative connotations, don't they? You can also have a gossip monger or a rumour monger, but you wouldn't really want to be called any of those things, would you? There's no reason that monger should be pejorative, but in the past couple of centuries, it's just gone that way. And as any etymology monger will tell you, words change. Next up, I want to get engrossed in groceries. Now, groceries is a word used a lot more in American English than British English these days. It means food shopping, but there's nothing newfangled about it. Groceries are what you buy from a grocer, and the word grocer can be traced way back to the Romans. Post-classical Latin had the word grossarius, which meant someone who sold in gross, i.e. someone who sold in large quantities, in bulk. It's what we might these days, I suppose, call a wholesaler. Now, grossarius made its way to us via French as grossier and morphed into our word grocer, the S rather unhelpfully turning into a C. In British English, you're most likely to encounter a grocer in a fruit and veg shop, what we call a greengrocer. They're so called because they sell large amounts of greens, i.e. vegetables. And I just want to focus on that concept of greens because it's relevant to something that we've already talked about. Vegetables used to be considered meat. In Old and Middle English, the word meat simply meant food. And it's why we have the slightly old-fashioned saying, meat and drink, and also why vegetarians can still enjoy pies filled with mincemeat. What we now call meat was referred to as flesh meat back then, hence a butcher was once a fleshmonger. Meanwhile, vegetables were known as greens or green meat, the same sense of green that gives us greengrocer. And bonus fact, dairy products were known as white meat. The tales behind tailors, haberdashers, milliners and more coming up. But first, I just want to introduce you to this video's sponsor, Squarespace. Squarespace empowers individuals to create their online web presence or launch their passion projects. They make building your own website just so simple. They're powerful blogging tools enable you to easily share videos and social media posts, for example. There are also lots of cool ways to improve the look of your site, like these funky backgrounds I've been trying out, and I've also just been exploring its analytics tools, which give you an in-depth idea of who is visiting your site and from where. Hello to my visitors in South Africa. So head over to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/RobWords to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Now, mongers and grocers might provide us with the meat and drink of life, but also essential are the clothes we wear. Next, I want to look at the word tailor. You know, Tailor is one of Britain's most common surnames. 1 in every 200 Brits is a tailor, however they choose to spell it. Each of them gets their name from a forebear who plied the trade. So where does the word tailor come from? Well, we get it from this old French word, which is similar to the modern French word tailleur. And it didn't mean someone who makes clothes. It meant someone who cuts. In French, you can combine tailleur with different things to make all kinds of jobs. You can have a tailleur de pierre, literally a stone cutter or a mason. You can have a tailleur de bois, a wood cutter or wood carver. And you could also have a tailleur de robe, which is a dress cutter. However, if you use tailleur on its own, it means the last of those examples. It's essentially shorthand for tailleur de robe. So when tailor entered English, it just meant cutter of cloth, although its meaning has now morphed a little to be the person who stitches the cloth back together again. And that's all just as well, because the idea of a tailleur de robe sounds kind of terrifying to me. The root of tailleur lies in medieval Latin, which had the word tagliare, meaning to cut. That actually gives us lots of other words across the Romance languages. Tastiest of all is the Italian word tagliatelle, which is pasta that's been, you guessed it, cut. Now, once you've cut your cloth, it's off to the haberdasher. Easily one of the most satisfying words on the English high street / main street, and possibly in the English language altogether. But its origin does lack the gratification of its pronunciation. The word haberdas pops up in Anglo-Norman, so the French spoken by William the Conqueror's mates after they invaded England. And a haberdasher is someone who sells haberdas. So what on earth is haberdas? Well, I'm sorry, but we don't really know. The word appears on centuries-old lists of imports, but with no clues about what exactly it refers to. It seems to be either a kind of fabric or just general assorted small items, which actually fits much better with what it refers to now. A haberdasher sells all kinds of bits and bobs for the making of garments, at least in its British use it does. In North America, it's a maker of men's clothing, but goodness knows what they should actually be doing. Now, in the 16th and 17th centuries, haberdasher was used as a synonym for our next word, milliner. Now, you don't hear this word much these days, but it is still around. What does it mean? Well, just off the top of my head, hat maker. But back when it was synonymous with haberdasher, its meaning was more broad. It was a general dealer in garments, and its origin is a belter, weak pun intended. Milliner emerged as a word during the Renaissance period, when Europe's undisputed fashion capital was Italy. Many a merchant made their money by importing Italian garments to Britain, and these merchants were named after the city from which the garments were sourced. Milan. Milliner became milliner, the meaning of which narrowed from garments in general to just hats. It's a simple but a satisfying one. Now, anyone hoping to make any kind of garment would be lost without our next craftsfolk, the weavers. The word weaver has been with us for a long time. Like words like baker, it has similar sounding equivalents across the Germanic languages. And it simply means someone who weaves. Weaving has existed for about as long as we've had clothes. The ancient root of weaver also gives us the word weft and, most satisfyingly, web. The German word for weaver, Weber, is a clue to that. But so ancient is weaver's background that it has relations in languages beyond Europe. A relative exists embedded in this Sanskrit word, Urnavabi. Thanks to my friend Sid for trying to teach me how to pronounce that. I'm sure I still got it wrong. Anyway, this word literally translates to English as wool weaver, and it's a Sanskrit word for spider, nature's master weaver. A spider. A spider on me. How long has that been there? I've been there the whole time. Now, weaver is another of those words like baker and brewer that also has a feminine alternative. Webster joins Baxter and Brewster on the list. Now, for more about bakers and Baxters, as well as butchers, carpenters, cobblers, and more, watch my first video about job names. Click the link that's about to appear on top of my face. If you've already seen it though, please check out one of my other videos instead, and stay tuned for more jobs words in future. Please hit like and subscribe, and until next time, take care.